The gymnasium lights flicker one final time before plunging into complete darkness. 20 years of dust particles dance in the single beam of Olivia Carter's flashlight as she descends cracked concrete steps into the bowels of what was once the proudest arena in collegiate basketball. Her breath forms visible clouds in the frigid air, each exhale echoing off water-stained walls that once thundered with the roar of 15,000 screaming fans. The beam catches fragments of forgotten glory, torn championship banners hanging like funeral shrouds, their golden letters barely visible through decades of neglect. A rat scurries across overturned bleacher seats, its claws scratching against metal that once supported the dreams of an entire community. The scoreboard hangs at a dangerous angle, its digital display forever frozen at 0000, as if time itself stopped the night her son Kevin and his teammates vanished without explanation. Olivia's weathered hands tremble as she grips the cold steel railing, her wedding ring catching the light, the same ring she'd twisted nervously during every game, every late-night practice, every moment of pride watching Kevin sink three-pointers that brought crowds to their feet. Now those same hands shake not from excitement, but from the bone-deep certainty that tonight, after 2 decades of sleepless nights and dead-end investigations, she's finally close to answers. The basement door stands slightly ajar, its hinges groaning like the dying breath of some ancient beast. Beyond it lies the locker room where champions once suited up, where victory speeches echoed off tile walls, where her son last touched his jersey before walking into oblivion. The silence is deafening, broken only by the steady drip of a leaky pipe somewhere in the darkness ahead. If you love true crime mysteries, like and subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. She pushes forward, each footstep a countdown to revelation, her flashlight beam. Dancing across empty doorways and abandoned equipment, the air grows thicker, heavy with the scent of mildew and something else. Something metallic that makes her stomach clench with recognition. 20 years of searching, 20 years of official silence, 20 years of being told to move on and accept that some mysteries have no answers. But the sight of that blood-stained jersey will leave you speechless. March 1980. The Riverside University Rams weren't just a basketball team. They were gods walking among mortals, their sneakers squeaking symphonies across hardwood that transformed ordinary Tuesday nights into religious experiences. Kevin Carter, jersey number 23, possessed hands that seemed magnetized to leather, a 6'2" junior whose fadeaway jumper had become the stuff of campus legend. Sports Illustrated had him on their watch list. NBA scouts filled entire notebooks with observations about his court vision, his leadership, his ability to elevate teammates into something greater than the sum of their individual talents. The arena sold out every home game. Scalpers working the parking lots like stock traders, season tickets passed down through generations like family heirlooms. Local restaurants stayed open late to accommodate the post-game crowds, their walls decorated with blown-up photographs of Kevin and his teammates raising trophies, cutting down nets, celebrating victories that felt like conquests. The team's success had breathed new life into a Rust Belt town that desperately needed heroes, transforming Riverside from a forgotten industrial footnote into a basketball destination that mattered. Coach Williams ran practices like military drills, his whistle cutting through gymnasium air, thick with ambition and sweat. Kevin thrived under the pressure, his work ethic legendary even among teammates who lived and breathed the game. Morning workouts at 5 a.m., film sessions that stretched past midnight, scrimmages that left everyone bloody and bruised but desperate for more. The chemistry between players bordered on telepathic, no-look passes that found their targets with supernatural precision, defensive rotations so seamless they seemed choreographed by fate itself. Then came the conference tournament, their ticket to March Madness and the national stage that would launch careers and fulfill childhood dreams. The charter bus waited outside the student union, its diesel engine rumbling like a mechanical heartbeat, while players loaded duffel bags containing everything they'd worked for since elementary school playground games. Parents gathered to send them off with tearful hugs and whispered prayers, mothers pressing good luck charms into sweaty palms, fathers offering final words of encouragement that echoed years of backyard coaching sessions. Kevin kissed his girlfriend goodbye, promised his mom he'd call after the game, gave his dad the confident smile that had charmed teachers and teammates since kindergarten. The bus pulled away at exactly 7:30 p.m., its taillights disappearing into the darkness like dying stars, carrying 13 young men toward what everyone assumed would be the greatest night of their lives. No one imagined it would be their last. The discovery of the empty, undamaged bus 3 days later on a remote highway shoulder sparked the largest missing persons investigation in state history, but produced nothing except questions that multiplied like cancer cells, consuming families and investigators alike. Until now, every theory ended in dead ends. Olivia Carter wasn't always the hollow-eyed woman haunting police stations and newspaper archives. 20 years ago, she baked cookies for team fundraisers, organized car washes to pay for new uniforms, spent Saturday mornings washing grass stains from practice jerseys while humming along to radio songs that reminded her of simpler times. She was the mom who never missed a game, who learned basketball rules just to better understand her son's passion, who kept statistics in spiral notebooks with handwriting so precise it looked like calligraphy. Kevin was her miracle baby, born after 3 miscarriages that had nearly broken her marriage and her faith in equal measure. When he finally arrived, healthy and screaming with lungs that would later cheer from gymnasium bleachers, she'd held him against her chest and whispered promises about the life they'd build together. Piano lessons that he abandoned for basketball camps, honor roll certificates taped to refrigerator doors, growth marks penciled on doorframe walls that chronicled his journey from chubby toddler to lanky teenager with dreams bigger than their small town could contain. She taught him to tie his shoes, to say please and thank you, to look adults in the eye when shaking hands. She watched him grow from playground games of horse to varsity starting lineup, from participation trophies to newspaper headlines that made her heart swell with pride so intense it felt like physical pain. Every basket he scored, every defensive stop he made, every leadership moment that earned teammates respect, she felt it all as if his successes were her own, because in many ways they were. The night he disappeared, she'd ironed his lucky socks, the same pair he'd worn during their 12-game winning streak. She'd packed his favorite pregame meal, peanut butter sandwiches with honey, the crust cut off exactly the way he'd preferred since childhood. She'd kissed his forehead and told him she loved him, words that now replay in her mind like a broken record player, skipping over the same devastating groove. Her husband left after the 5th anniversary, unable to watch her transform from grieving mother into obsessed investigator. The divorce papers cited irreconcilable differences, but Olivia knew the truth. Some people process loss by moving forward, while others dig deeper into the past, searching for meaning in tragedy that might not contain any. She chose excavation over acceptance, investigation over healing, hope over the kind of practical wisdom that might have saved her marriage but would have abandoned her son to the void of unsolved mysteries. Now she lives alone in a house filled with Kevin's trophies, his bedroom preserved like a shrine to interrupted potential, his basketball still sitting where he left it by the front door, waiting for a practice session that will never come. The locker room materializes in her flashlight beam like a ghost ship emerging from fog, its metal doors streaked with rust that resembles dried tears running down weathered cheeks. 20 years of abandonment have transformed this sacred space into something from a horror movie. Ceiling tiles hanging at precarious angles, shower heads dripping steadily into puddles that reflect her light like black mirrors, wooden benches warped and cracked from decades of moisture and neglect. Olivia's breathing becomes shallow as she approaches the wall of lockers, each one bearing a nameplate that reads like a memorial. Johnson, Martinez, Thompson, Williams. Names that once filled newspaper sports sections and local radio broadcasts now serve as epitaphs for dreams that died on a dark highway 20 years ago. Her flashlight trembles as it illuminates familiar combinations of letters and numbers, memories flooding back with the force of a dam break. Then she sees it. Locker number 23, positioned at eye level in the center row, its nameplate reading Carter in faded block letters that she'd helped Kevin engrave during his freshman year orientation. The metal door hangs slightly open, as if someone had recently visited this forgotten monument to interrupted lives. Her heart hammers against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom, each beat so loud she's certain it's echoing off the tile walls. The combination lock dangles open, its familiar numbers, Kevin's birthday. Backwards, still visible despite the corrosion. She'd given him that date sequence when he first joined the team, a private joke between mother and son that made her feel connected to his basketball life even when she couldn't be courtside. Now those same numbers mock her with their simplicity, their naive assumption that some things would always remain private and protected. She pulls the door open with the reverence of someone handling ancient scripture, its hinges protesting with a metallic shriek that seems to awaken every echo in the abandoned facility. Inside, where she expected to find nothing but dust and spider webs, something waits that makes her knees buckle with shock and recognition. A basketball jersey, folded with military precision, sits on the narrow metal shelf like an offering on an altar. The fabric is stained dark red, not the bright crimson of fresh blood, but the deep, rusty brown of something that dried long ago under circumstances she doesn't want to imagine. The number 23 is clearly visible, along with Carter, printed in block letters across the shoulder blades, exactly as she remembered from countless game nights when she'd watched her son wear this same uniform with pride that radiated from every pore. But it's what's tucked beneath the jersey that stops her breath entirely. A single sheet of paper, yellowed with age but typed with the precision of someone who wanted their message to be perfectly clear. The corner peeks out like a white flag of surrender, or perhaps a declaration of war against the silence that has suffocated her family for 2 decades. She unfolds the note, but the words remain obscured for now. Her fingers hover above the paper, like a pianist preparing to play a piece that might shatter every window in the auditorium. The silence in the locker room becomes oppressive, pressing against her eardrums with the weight of 20 years' worth of unanswered questions. Even the steady drip of the leaky pipe seems to pause, as if the entire building is holding its breath, waiting to see whether she has the courage to read words that were clearly meant for her to find. The jersey's fabric feels rough beneath her trembling fingertips, its once smooth polyester now textured with whatever substances created those ominous stains. The smell hits her next, not just mildew and decay, but something metallic and organic that makes her stomach clench with primitive recognition. This isn't just a forgotten piece of athletic equipment. It's evidence of something that happened in darkness, something that left marks on fabric and possibly on souls. She lifts the jersey carefully, treating it like the archaeological treasure it has become, and the note unfolds slightly, revealing a corner of text that makes her vision blur with tears she's been holding back for 2 decades. The typewriter font is unmistakable, an old IBM Selectric, the same model used in the university's administrative offices, the same distinctive lettering that appeared on official transcripts and coaching contracts and police reports that led nowhere. The paper itself tells a story of careful preservation, no water damage, no insect holes, no signs of the deterioration that should have occurred in this damp, forgotten space. Someone maintained this shrine, visited this locker, kept this message waiting for the right person to find it at exactly the right moment. The realization sends ice water through her veins as she understands that Kevin's disappearance wasn't random, wasn't accidental, wasn't the tragic result of mechanical failure or criminal opportunity. It was planned, it was deliberate, and someone has been waiting 20 years for her to discover the truth. The note rustles softly as she begins to unfold it completely, each crease revealing another fragment of typescript that will either provide the answers she's desperately needed or destroy what little sanity she has left after 2 decades of living in limbo between hope and despair. We'll reveal that chilling message in a moment. Professor Marcus Lang's hands shake as he accepts the bloodstained jersey, his weathered fingers immediately recognizing fabric he'd ordered for his team 20 years ago. The retired coach sits behind a desk buried under championship trophies that now feel like monuments to interrupted lives, his face draining of color as Olivia explains the locker discovery. When she produces the note, his reaction is immediate and visceral, a sharp intake of breath followed by silence so profound it seems to absorb sound itself. He reads the typed words once, twice, 3 times. We never left the arena. Trust no one. This can't be real, he whispers, but his trembling hands betray his certainty. The bus was found 60 miles away. The FBI investigated. Everyone agreed they left campus that night. His eyes dart toward a framed architectural blueprint on his office wall, original construction plans for the gymnasium, complete with basement layouts that don't match what Olivia just explored. She follows his gaze and notices faded pencil notations, measurements that tell a story the official investigation never uncovered. Professor Lang approaches the blueprint with the cautious reverence of someone handling a live explosive. The original construction included maintenance tunnels, he says, voice barely above a whisper. Steam pipes, electrical conduits, emergency access routes. They were sealed during renovations in 1978, 2 years before. The retrofitting project had created hidden spaces beneath the gymnasium floor, passages that wouldn't appear on updated blueprints, spaces where 13 young men could disappear without leaving campus, without triggering surveillance, without creating evidence trails that investigators spend careers following. His finger traces a service tunnel running directly beneath center court, connecting the locker room to a mechanical room, supposedly sealed decades ago. The renovation supervisor was David Kellerman, he says, consulting a dusty file. He had access to every part of the building, knew every passage, every hidden space. The blueprint reveals steam pipes large enough for grown men to crawl through, electrical conduits that could hide voices crying for help, ventilation shafts that would carry sound too deep for anyone above ground to hear. Professor Lang's silence had been purchased with threats, his complicity guaranteed by institutional pressure that transforms witnesses into accomplices. Kellerman kept the key to the maintenance access, he explains, his voice hollow. Only 3 people had copies: himself, the head of facilities, and... He pauses, unable to name the third conspirator, whose involvement would explain how 13 young men could vanish from a locked building without triggering security protocols. He opens a locked drawer and produces a brass key tarnished with age, but still functional. I've had it for 20 years, too afraid to use it, too guilty to throw it away. He whispers, they hid far more than their hopes. The blueprint spreads across Professor Lang's desk like a confession written in architectural ink, its faded lines revealing secrets that 20 years of investigation failed to uncover. The maintenance tunnel runs in a straight line from the locker room to a chamber beneath center court, its pathway marked with engineering symbols that meant nothing to grieving parents, but everything to someone planning the perfect disappearance. Professor Lang's finger traces the tunnel with the precision of someone who has studied this blueprint countless times, someone who knew exactly what it revealed, but lacked courage to act. Kellerman sealed the entrance after renovation, but kept the key. Only 3 people had copies: himself, the head of facilities, and he can't name the third conspirator. The note suddenly makes perfect sense. We never left the arena. Trust no one. It's not cryptic. It's literal description of what happened, written by young men who realized too late that their championship dreams had become a death trap engineered by people they trusted. Olivia examines the blueprint's measurements, calculating distances that transform abstract drawings into concrete understanding of her son's final hours. The tunnel is 4 feet high and 3 feet wide, large enough for basketball players to move single file, but too narrow to turn around once committed to the passage. The brass key feels warm in Olivia's palm, heavy with the gravitational pull of truth hidden beneath layers of official incompetence and deliberate misdirection. Its weight seems disproportionate to size, carrying 20 years of secrets. Professor Lang's confession comes in whispers. Kellerman gave me this the day after they disappeared, said I might need it for facility emergencies. I've known for 20 years what really happened, but was too afraid to use it. The key unlocks more than maintenance access. It opens the door to truth that will destroy everything the official investigation concluded, revealing that 13 young men didn't die in a highway accident, but were murdered in the basement of the building where they'd learned to dream of greatness. What's at the end of that tunnel? Don't look away. The gymnasium floor groans as Olivia and Professor Lang pry up hardwood planks with crowbars, each board coming loose with sounds like breaking bones. The brass key unlocks a maintenance panel hidden beneath the center court logo, exposing a rectangular opening that descends into darkness so complete it absorbs their flashlight beams. The smell rises from below, metallic scent that clung to Kevin's jersey, now concentrated and mixed with odors that speak of confinement and desperation. Professor Lang's breathing becomes labored as they prepare to descend, his face gray with mixture of exertion and terror. He knows what they'll find has probably known for 20 years. The ladder rungs are slick with condensation and something else that makes their hands slide despite desperate grips. 20 feet down, the ladder ends at a horizontal passage stretching into blackness. The ceiling forces them to crawl on hands and knees across concrete stained with substances Olivia doesn't want to identify. Their flashlight beams reveal basketball shoes scattered along the passage. Air Jordans and Converse All-Stars, belonging to specific players she remembers cheering for during games that now feel like they happened in another lifetime. The tunnel curves left, following the foundation toward what the blueprint indicated was a mechanical room beneath the visiting bench. With each yard forward, air grows thicker, heavy with secrets that have fermented in darkness for 2 decades. Professor Lang's flashlight flickers, battery weakened by age and electromagnetic interference, pulsing through walls like a mechanical heartbeat. Then they hear it, rhythmic, mechanical, impossible after 20 years of abandonment. The steady tick, tick, tick of something that might be a clock or timer or water dripping onto metal with persistence of Chinese torture. As they round the final curve, their combined beams illuminate a chamber that makes Olivia scream with recognition. Basketball equipment scattered across the floor, deflated balls, torn uniforms, water bottles bearing team logos. A scoreboard flickers, weekly overhead, cycling through numbers. 1980, Game 7, final score, error, error, error. But it's what's chalked on concrete walls that breaks her heart, messages scratched by fingernails and rocks, desperate final communications. Tell my mom I love her. Coach lied to us. Help is not coming. And in Kevin's distinctive handwriting, Mom, I'm sorry. A sudden crash echoes behind them, followed by unmistakable sound of the tunnel entrance being sealed. Someone has been watching, waiting for them to discover truth. And now they're trapped in the same concrete tomb that claimed 13 young lives 20 years ago. The scoreboard displays new message. Oxygen level, 12%, 11%, 10%. Someone is monitoring their presence, controlling airflow, turning their investigation into slow-motion execution. The mechanical room expands beyond their flashlight range like a concrete cathedral dedicated to suffering, its walls covered with desperate messages chronicling the final hours of 13 young men who died believing rescue was coming. The scoreboard continues cycling through displays revealing twisted logic. Game 1, March 15th. Game 2, March 16th. The dates continue through an entire week. Professor Lang's flashlight illuminates something that makes him vomit. A circle of basketball uniforms arranged like flower petals around a center point, marked with chalked X. The jerseys are numbered 1 through 13, each stained with evidence of what happened when dehydration finally claimed its victims. Kevin's 23 sits at 12 o'clock, positioned like he was still team captain even in death. Fresh chalk marks couldn't have been here 20 years. Visitors will join the team. Final roster, 15 players. Coach Lang knows the rules. This isn't just a murder scene, it's an active trap designed to eliminate anyone who gets too close to truth. The scoreboard flickers. Oxygen level, 12%, 11%, 10%. Someone is monitoring. Their presence, controlling airflow, turning investigation into execution that mirrors exactly what happened to Kevin and teammates. Professor Lang's confession comes in ragged whispers. Kellerman didn't work alone. The athletic director needed insurance money. The university was bankrupt, desperate for settlement they'd collect from tragic bus accident. But they needed the team to disappear completely. No bodies that could contradict the official story. The plan was elegant: lure the team into tunnel system using fake emergency, seal entrances, wait for dehydration to complete the job, then stage abandoned bus discovery to support accident narrative. Insurance payout saved the university, funded construction projects, transformed tragedy into financial opportunity with cold calculation that turns institutions into killing machines. Someone made a mistake. They left evidence. Kevin's jersey serving as breadcrumbs for anyone brave enough to follow the trail. Fresh chalk suggests the killer returns regularly, perhaps drawn by guilt or need to ensure their secret remains buried with victims. Air grows thinner with each breath, flashlights dimming as batteries drain, and oxygen drops toward point where consciousness becomes optional. The scoreboard continues countdown, displaying not game statistics, but minutes they have left before joining the team they came to save. The fresh messages reveal the true horror. This chamber has been maintained as a shrine, visited regularly by someone who treats murdered children like trophies in a collection that's about to gain 2 new additions. Then, a solitary whistle blows from the darkness. The whistle echoes through concrete like a referee's call, arriving 20 years too late, but just in time to save 2 more lives. Emergency responders flood through the tunnel with flashlights that transform the underground tomb into a crime scene illuminated by justice finally arriving. Olivia emerges, clutching Kevin's jersey against her chest, tears carrying 20 years of suppressed grief finally finding release. The arena above swarms with investigators and media who transform her private discovery into public reckoning that will rewrite Riverside University's history and expose institutional corruption that sacrificed children for financial survival. Professor Lang is led away in handcuffs, his confession recorded by FBI agents who reopened the case based on anonymous tips that started arriving the moment Olivia entered the tunnel. The calls came from David Kellerman himself, the maintenance supervisor whose guilt finally overwhelmed his fear after 2 decades of nightmares populated by faces of boys he'd helped murder for money. Kellerman's surrender provides final puzzle pieces, names, dates, financial records documenting how a university athletic department transformed into criminal conspiracy when budget shortfalls threatened institutional survival. The insurance settlement totaled $15 million, funding improvements in salaries while families grieved children they'd been told died in accidents that never happened. The underground chamber becomes memorial site as families receive closure they'd been denied, each recovered uniform returning a son to parents who had buried empty coffins. Kevin's jersey hangs in Olivia's living room now, no longer evidence of unresolved mystery, but proof that a mother's love can overcome institutional lies when justice seems impossible. Legal proceedings stretch for months, but emotional resolution comes quickly for families who finally understand their sons died as heroes rather than victims. Boys who faced death together, supporting each other through final hours that demonstrated character their coaches tried to instill through basketball discipline. Olivia testifies before congressional committees investigating insurance fraud in collegiate athletics, her advocacy leading to federal legislation requiring independent oversight of university programs and mandatory disclosure of financial relationships that could create conflicts between educational mission and economic survival. The empty gymnasium echoes with memories of games that mattered before corruption poisoned everything, but now includes voices of justice finally served. 3 years later, Riverside University exists only in legal documents. Its campus sold to developers who will build shopping centers where championship dreams once flourished and died. The basketball arena stands empty, windows boarded and doors chained, but the basement tunnel remains open as memorial to 13 young men whose names are engraved on granite, promising their story will never be forgotten. Olivia visits every March 15th, bringing fresh flowers and photographs proving Kevin's memory lives beyond trauma. Birthday parties and Christmas mornings and summer afternoons, shooting baskets where dreams seemed infinitely possible. Legal. Settlements provide compensation that feels inadequate, but enables families to establish scholarship programs, ensuring future student athletes benefit from educational opportunities rather than suffer institutional exploitation. The Kevin Carter Memorial Fund awards scholarships to students from single-parent households, continuing his legacy through young people who will never know how his death helped protect their futures. David Kellerman died in federal prison 6 months into his sentence. Suicide note expressing remorse that felt genuine, but arrived too late. Professor Lang received 15 years for conspiracy, his cooperation earning reduced sentence. That still means he'll likely die behind bars where televised basketball games serve as daily reminders of the sport he corrupted. FBI investigation revealed similar cases at 17 other universities, where financial desperation created environments where students became expendable variables in budget calculations driven by greed rather than educational mission. Federal oversight now monitors collegiate programs with scrutiny that might have saved Kevin and teammates if applied before corruption took root. But questions remain unanswered, shadows lingering despite justice, finally illuminating corners where truth had hidden. The chalk messages suggested someone else was involved, an unknown conspirator whose identity died with Kellerman and whose continued freedom represents unfinished business in a case that exposed institutional rot extending beyond any single university. What really forced them underground? And will we ever repay the debt they left behind?